I realised I've stopped promoting this on the Guitar Builders Collective Facebook page. I used to promote it before we went live every week. So now it's just like the chosen few that happen to know or happen to be subscribed that see it. But hopefully people find out about it later. People do share it. So hello if you're there. Welcome. Today it's me in the UK, and we've got Mark and Scott over in Texas, in America. We thought we'd talk about something a bit different today because earlier in the week, or last week, Mark sent us a link to... Well, Mark, do you want to tell us about what it was and how you found it?
Yeah, I don't know how I found it, but there is an auction that is auctioning off all of David Lynch's gear. And when I say gear, we're talking about his woodworking shop gear, his musical studio gear, his book collection, his art supplies, lighting, cameras. I mean, everything you can think of, everything the man owned is basically up for auction. And I thought it was curious because he had a couple of like bandsaws, and I just posted that link in our Discord. I thought it was kind of funny to perhaps maybe even own David Lynch's bandsaw. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, well, it's just such a weird thing to own. I was saying just off air that I actually do need a new shop vac, and he's selling his shop vacs. And just the thought of spending a little bit extra, or quite a bit extra, for a shop vac, but knowing it was used by him, and then just using it till it died. I feel like these aren't the sort of... Some of his memorabilia that he's selling are props from films or books and art books and things like that. But the idea of having his Vestal router table isn't something you like put on display for people to see. It feels like it's a practical thing you're going to buy.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people don't know that he was like a woodworker. He built a lot of the like sets for his films. And one of the stories that I have is that I remember years and years and years ago when he was working on Lost Highway, there was actually a short little documentary of him in the workshop designing a one-legged table to be put in the movie. And it always inspired me because one, the thought of him, he was so weird, right? He was like, I want to build a one-legged table. And you see him in the shop with his table saw and all his tools, and he's building this one-legged table, and you're like, this old man, this filmmaker's, building this? I can't believe it. Anyway, he ends up building the one-legged table, and it's in the shot of Lost Highway. It's like one of those entryway tables where you walk in your front door and you put your keys down on a table. It's like one of those. So it's about a little bit, waist high, but it has one leg, and it's amazing. And it was so inspiring that, I was in college, I think, when that movie came out, maybe. I'm not sure. I remember I designed, after seeing that, a one-legged coffee table, just because I was so inspired by David Lynch.
That's cool. Look, we're going to talk about his instruments as well in a minute. But look, this is the dust collector. Look at that. Final inspection, 1992. I've never had a dust collector that lasts that long. Presumably it still works. But people are bidding on it. It's already... So I don't really understand how it works, but the auction is on Wednesday, but you can already bid online. Although Mark said he registered and tried to bid. Couldn't. But yeah. It's already $1,000. So, that just seems crazy. That's definitely not going to go on, in someone's coffee table. Hey, welcome in, my friends, for my evening drinks. We're going to have a lovely evening, and I'm going to show off my props and memorabilia that I collect from films and the dust collector that David Lynch had in his workshop. So weird.
It's a very specific tool, right? So it's like someone who's buying that is going to use it for dust extraction.
Yeah, it just feels like I've gone on an eBay page and I've just searched for workshop tools. And
he had so much stuff. He had so much, and this is just the woodworking stuff. When you get to his lighting and camera gear, he's got tons of stuff. The man had a collection of stuff. And that lot right there, the $900 one, he's got router bits in there. There's a hammer. It's pretty crazy what you can get that belonged to David Lynch.
I feel like we should revisit this briefly next week just to see the amount they sold for. Hey, we were just saying off air as well that Scott didn't necessarily know David Lynch that well. I don't know if anyone in the chat does. Want to mention if they know him? We've got Owen and Alan in the chat.
Scott, surely you have seen a David Lynch movie. Surely.
Probably.
Or
I just-
Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't know much about him.
Right.
I'm not entirely sure why.
So, sorry, I've lost my train of thought, Mark. Was it Lost Highway or Mulholland Drive you mentioned?
Lost Highway.
Lost Highway. So, when I was in my third year of university, or fourth year essentially of university, I lived in a small flat in Camden Town, North London. And when I moved in with two other people who were studying medicine. And it was an absolute tip, this place we went into. And it turned out it had a cockroach infestation. It was horrendous. Anyway, the floorboards were really creaky. And we had this tiny room, which was essentially a cupboard, but you could just about sit in it. We had a TV at one end, and we'd sit in there and watch films quite regularly. And I had Lost Highway on DVD because I loved it. And one evening, the others were all out, and I was very, very drunk, and I was watching Lost Highway, and I got so freaked out watching it because there's bits in it which, at the time, I was finding so scary that I could hear the floorboards creaking, and I was convinced there was someone in the house. And I had to stop watching it. But those same bits, when I watch them now, I find hilarious. They're not scary at all, and I kind of look back on. I must have been like properly drunk to be that scared by it all. But brilliant film, and I had the soundtrack for that, and I found it absolutely incredible.
The soundtracks are really good. I mean, that's one of the things about his films, the soundtracks. Yeah, that Lost Highway soundtrack, I mean, that sax number with the saxophone was just intense.
Red Bats with Teeth, I think it was called.
Yeah. And then anything off like Fire Walk with Me or the Twin Peaks stuff, like all that stuff is just incredible.
Yeah, I saw a documentary with the guy who co-wrote the music for Twin Peaks with him.
Angelo Badalamenti, I think, is the composer. Yeah.
And he's the Red Bats with Teeth guy. And just talking about how they work together to play things. It was cool.
But no one realizes that David Lynch was a musician. He wrote a lot of that stuff, or co-composed, and also played on a lot of that stuff too.
Mm. And people that have watched us before will know Mark's a fan of the Parkerflies. Look at this.
The funny thing is, I passed so many black Parkerflies. I just didn't want a black one, and I gave up on so many, buying so many black ones. But now after seeing this, I want a black one.
As you were saying, Mark, you get photos of David Lynch playing it. Do either of you have, for example, somebody, it doesn't have to be a musician, but I'm guessing it probably is a musician, that if they passed away and there was an auction of their instruments, you'd want one of their instruments?
Like musician or
anyone?
Actor?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's lots of musicians I love, but I don't think I'd get any joy or pleasure from owning one of their guitars.
I guess the stuff that when I was a kid, so like Sonic Youth recently had like a Reverb store, and they had all their gear on there, and like I loved Sonic Youth when I was younger, and they had like all their Jaguars and Jazzmasters up there and all their pedals like all beat up, like that kind of like used vibe from back in the the late 80s, early 90s. I would totally, if they put that stuff up again, I'd probably want to bet on it. And then look at that guitar. What the heck's that?
Oh, I was reading about this. I'll read out the description of it. Yeah, just quickly on that note, though, about the music. So there's a band called Therapy, a British band that when I was a teenager were incredibly influential on me. When I was first learning guitar and playing in covers bands, we played their songs. I've seen them live loads of times. There's one particular album that I absolutely was obsessed with. And they're not that famous. And recently they unearthed a load of their old equipment from that album and the albums afterwards, and they were selling it on Reverb quite cheap because they're not big enough that people are going to invest loads of money in it. So I could have bought it wasn't a Metal Zone, but it was a really like a classic metal kind of Boss pedal, for not like ridiculous amounts of money. But I just don't know what I would.
Right, like no one
yeah.
needs a Metal Zone, but like you want it because the band had it. That makes sense.
Actually, I'm not sure what I just said, but Owen's corrected me here. They're technically a British band. Are they? They're Irish, aren't they? Am I allowed to call them? I can't remember exactly where they were from. Now I'm saying that.
I have a Metal Zone, but it's strictly for nostalgia purposes.
I'm wearing the Metal Zone shirt, Scott.
Oh no!
Awesome.
Here we go. Here's the question, and anyone that's watching, here's the question: whose Metal Zone would you want? A Metal Zone that belonged to someone. You could say this was such and such Metal Zone. Who played the Metal Zones? Would
That sounds like a James Hetfield thing, honestly.
I want the heavy metal pedal, which is like the black metal pedal.
I have
That's
that
the
one.
one. Yeah, that's the one I want, where you just dime everything and then you get the black metal sound. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I've got them both.
I cannot remember her name. I started following someone on Instagram. She's a blues funk guitarist, and she got one of those to demo, and she set it up, and it just sounded incredible. She set it up like distortion turned down, volume up, and something else on it that she did, and it just changed the sound of her guitar. And I can't describe it, but it worked for her blues music. And she was like, "Don't diss is it the HM2 or something like that?" Anyway, let's go back to this weird 5-string. So from what it says here, it's got 5 fretted necks. One of them's a baritone. I think it says somewhere it's like 29.5 inch, but the other two are 24.5 inch, and they're all the same. And they sound like they're all the same. They've got the same P90 in them. They've all got separate outputs.
He was probably running it. He's probably doing something strange with it.
Box into it, yeah. But it's got. I misread it. It's got the description at the bottom. 4 of the necks have capos attached at the headstock or on the neck itself, and 4 of the 5 necks are tuned to either a major or minor open tuning. The 4th is garbled. That means someone's looked at this, worked out potentially what David Lynch's last tuning of it was, how they've last used it. Well, I used to have a workshop in a place called Deptford in South London, and Deptford has a market that happened twice a week, and it was called the Dead Man's Market. And essentially, it was a load of market stall holders who had stuff that they claimed from the council, bought from the council, that the council had basically cleared out people's apartments, council houses, when people had passed away or left the building or been forced out the building somewhere for some reason, left their stuff behind. So you get old instruments there. I definitely bought a couple there that I customized, and you just get just old tools, bits of clothing, TVs. None of it was guaranteed to work because none of it had been tested. But this kind of feels like a posh version of that, like a look into somebody's life. You'd go over to one of the stands and you'd think all of these things have just come from the same person's house.
Yeah. And it's a look into not just like his lifestyle, but like into his mind. Because I mean, his book collection is up as well. So you see all his books and what he was interested in. And they're all, I think, packaged thematically too. So he's got a lot of film books, a lot of photography books. And I think that that's super personal. Like your book collection is super personal. I just can't believe that they're selling all this stuff. I don't know who's selling it, but I just feel like it's really, really just too personal. Not only that, but he was obviously like an avid, I don't know, he just loved design and furniture because he's got a collection of like lamps and he's got a collection of like lounge chairs, couches. Like he just loved furniture. He loved everything, and all his interests are just laid bare on this auction site.
Oh, no,
Crazy.
that's not loading. Yeah, I'll have a look at those things, mate, and then we get on to some guitar chat, maybe. I'm just so fascinated by this.
See, there's the delay pedal. The boss pedal is something that I would bid on if it didn't exceed, I don't know, $2,000, because I think you could flip that.
Yeah, that's what you're saying earlier.
Yeah.
I wonder. It's 18 bids, and this isn't the live day of bidding. I wonder how much it's going to go for. I'm slightly intrigued. I might try, and if they do the bidding, and you can watch it on the live stream, I might try and follow along. Oh look, he's got his Chaos later. I had that little yellow one. I had a lot of things like that I just sold to get a little bit of money to buy some different pedals. And I slightly regret it because I didn't use them very often, but they were fun to dig out. It's like, I was talking to Mark the other day about something. I've got my little pocket operator here.
Nice.
It's a drum machine one. So I bought it because the idea was I was going to program some drum patterns on it and play along to play some demos of my guitars. But I never really demo my guitars, and that was going to help me influence me to do it. And that
that was my exact same thought, Daniel. Like, I wanted a quick way to like knock out a beat on a drum machine to just play along with, because typically to have to like turn on the computer, open up my DAW, load some plugins, and like just those steps. By the time you get to that point, you've lost all your inspiration, right? And so I wanted something quick that I can just knock out when I was inspired in the moment, just knock out a beat that I could play over, and it's been working out really well.
Oh, good, it does. And remind everyone, or maybe they don't know, what's the model you've got?
I picked up, I just got fascinated by Teenage Engineering, which is this, I guess, I don't know, Sweden, someone of the Scandinavian country. Teenage Engineering makes of just some pretty crazy synthesizers and drum machines, and they make the pocket operators that Daniel just showed. And so I just picked up one of their samplers, which is the KO2, which is the big brother of what Daniel just showed. And then I bought their OP1, which is kind of the flagship synthesizer sampler. And they're just standalone units, so you don't need to connect them to anything. You just put it on your desk, and you can basically write an entire song on them. And it's just been lovely to be able to write like that when you're inspired in the moment.
I think there's something that I liked about the idea of having that as a drum machine as well. And maybe it's the same with yours, in that often you see guitar demos, or you're listening to guitarists on YouTube, and they've got the same sort of drum beat in the background. It's a classic rock drum beat, or it's just real drums. But I like the idea of it being, with this as well, very electronic-y, like
yes.
very lo-fi. And
I'm
I
with
think
you.
That might add something to the way I played. But then I realised, as I've said many times before, I would rather be building something than playing. I just don't. But if I had an extra 5 hours a day, I don't think I'd add guitar playing to it. I'd just add more building or more painting. I don't feel the need to play yet. Scott, do you play much anymore?
I would play. I don't play as much recently as for the last, 6-8 months since I've been in this house, and I have a place where I can. Everything's set up, and I just go in there and pick it up and turn it on. I have played quite a bit more. It's just in the last few weeks I haven't done as much, but it is fun, and I regret not putting a lot of effort into it, and in the past. The older I get, the more I regret not practicing all kinds of things, but I still enjoy playing. So I would love to have some type of situation where I can just go sit down, hit a button, and basically have an electronic band, just following me. Right now, I think that's kind of a pipe dream. But
that's curious, Scott, because what was it recently? Recently, I picked up, not recently, a while back, I picked up one of those Spark amps, which is the best-selling practice amp in the world, right? The Spark amps. And the Spark amps they're like modelers, right? But it comes with a little speaker. And it's all Bluetooth. It's all really fancy. But the app is where it's really cool because it has this play along mode, which is kind of like AI baloney. But it worked. It was like you turn your phone on, whatever, you start playing, and it follows you. Like it knows your tempo, and then it plays drums, and a bass line is following your chord changes. Like you can change chords, and the bass player is like following you. And it was just like ridiculously cool. Yeah, I was like so impressed by it. it was like really impressive that I had to stop. I was like, whoa, this is really cool.
That sounds brilliant. And they're quite cheap as well, the small ones. And I think that even the small portable ones, I think anyway, use the same software as the bigger ones.
Yeah.
I bought a looper, and I can't off the top of my head remember who made it. It's pretty. It's one of the companies that does pretty cheap pedals, but it's a dual thing. But it was a looper, but it's also a drum machine, and it, supposedly it will follow your tempo and kind of you can have it lead in, or you can have it just jump in with you. So it does a little bit of that, but I also haven't had time to really, invest into figuring out exactly how to use the damn thing, because it's my first looper was a hot tone looper, and it had, basically 3 functions. One click is to start recording, double is pause, and then hold to clear. That was it. So there wasn't anything to learn. It wasn't complicated. This thing has all kinds of shit, and I just haven't had the time to invest to get the PhD in this pedal to be able to, put it to real use.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Totally. I bought a Rowan looper. So Rowan are a make that make cheap pedals. I think probably the same OEM pedals that Amazon Basic pedals were at one point. And they had a looper, and it seemed to have loads of functionality at a very reasonable cost compared to the other ones that were out in the market at the time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a really well-designed pedal. If I'd spent a bit more money, I would have had one that felt more intuitive. Instead, I had to read instructions every time I got it out, because I wasn't playing it every day. If I'd waited 3 weeks, I'd sort of forgotten what some of the buttons did, and it was a bit of a pain. And but I imagine for someone that uses it regularly, it's got everything at the time, not like the Spark has now, Mark, but at the time it could do drum fill. You hit a button, it would play a drum fill for you. So it would make sure that the backing loop wouldn't be the same. And it would have like 5 or 6 loops, I think, that you could play of drums that kind of linked together, so you could have a different feel in the same thing. And then you could loop over it and record yourself and drop bits in and out. And it was all in a little pedal. But yeah, not quite as intuitive as...
I've got 2 or 3 Rowan pedals, and I can't remember what they are, but other things, and I'm really impressed with them. For a cheap pedal, they were really nice. I haven't seen their looper, but talking about really non-intuitive things. This one of the things I specifically remember is if you're holding this button down when you plug it in, it puts it in this mode, and I'm like, are you serious? I mean, how am I supposed to do that with my toes? This is supposed to be a pedal. I mean, if it's going to be that wacky, give me a control thingy to put on the desk, really not intuitive. But what can you do with a button or 2 for all this, crazy functionality? I don't know.
Didn't the TC electronic looper have 1 button?
They definitely had one with that.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen Danish Pete on the Andertons channel doing looping, and on his own channel. And he does some advanced looping just with a 1 pedal looper. And it just, obviously, he knows how to use it, and he can play, and it's mind-blowing. I think even, I'm sure you're all aware of Katie Tunstall and her looping.
Yeah.
Do you know who she is?
Maybe
you don't. So she definitely, early on, was one of those first people I saw doing guitar loop performances, where she'd use her guitar and the looper to put down some sort of rhythm by just banging the guitar or strumming the strings when they were muted, and then building up songs on top of it, where it feels like a whole song that she's performing, not just a loop that grows into its really interesting loop, but then it ends. So she made proper songs out of it. And I think she uses I want to pronounce it an Akai looper, but it's an old one, and I saw her interviewed, and she's just managed to buy them second hand at lots of money, because she's just got this one that she's been used to for ages. I'm sure this was years ago, and she probably has a multitude of things now. But it was, an early looper, so it was relatively basic compared to the things you can get now. And
she was one of the first people I really saw doing something with it, and got me interested in the idea of getting a looper. I never looked into what her equipment was.
Some of the old loopers, like old stuff, I remember seeing one. I can't remember who it was playing it. But instead of the proper foot switches that we all have on our pedals, they were arcade buttons. And so it's a lot easier to activate and punch in and punch out an arcade button than it is a foot switch, because there's a lag with a foot switch, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so some of these old looper pedals, they're for the floor, but they have arcade buttons. Those things are also pretty pricey. People want those.
Pretty interesting. Huh.
Khaki King, that's who it was. Khaki King was playing the looper back in the day. Yeah. What you looking at, Daniel?
Sorry, here we go. Sorry, I was just trying to look it up. Let's see if I can show you the Katie Tunstall one. Oh, sorry, a bit slow on my mouse has gone funny. Where is it? There we go. So she used this, the head rush.
The head rush.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is the one she used, and not just someone's made it up on here.
No, everybody used that back in the day. Yeah, that was like all there was.
And now you see ones with 50 buttons on. There you go. While we're here, let's get rid of this, and let's go back to the coffee machines. That's the sort of thing that you'd invite someone round and you'd say, "Would you like a cup of coffee made in David Lynch's coffee machine? Not, would you like to hoover or vacuum my workshop for me using David Lynch's vacuum?"
That would be a damn fine good cup of coffee.
Yeah, 10 grand. That's cool. That feels cool. And like you said, his sofas. Look at those. I feel like these deer heads have got to have been a prop in one of his films or shows. I remember those people I lived with in Camden. We went and saw, as a group of us, quite a big group of us, went and saw Mulholland Drive when it was in the cinema, and the weeks of debate we had over what it meant. It's brilliant. He's definitely one of those directors that gets you going. But then at the same time, I remember, I'm sure it was Inland Empire. We all went on holiday, and I got a DVD of Inland Empire. I fell asleep. I could not handle it. Yeah, only a few people made it to the end of the film. That's for sure.
Something that I will definitely not share on the live stream, but I have a David Lynch inspired tattoo on my body.
Ah. Oh, can we guess?
Based on one of his pieces of work. Yeah, you may guess.
Is it a Twin Peaks related thing?
It is.
Is it the log lady? Have you got something to do with the log lady?
No, it's not the log lady.
It's got to be some sort of like the pattern from the Red Room.
Yeah, nope.
No? Oh.
Well, enough guessing. Yeah.
Yeah, tell us.
No.
We're not going to find out.
Mm-mm.
Oh, can we make this an ongoing slot every time you're on?
Sure.
So we get another guest.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some cool things that he's got here. Like, I don't even know. Just some things just look cool. Look at this tape. Is it tape? What is it?
I saw this. I don't know what it is.
I kind of wish that, like you said, the sort of mysterious person that's decided to put all of these things up, because there's a lot here, but clearly this isn't all of his things. He had other things. So these are things that whoever is selling them doesn't mind getting rid of, or thinks these are the things that are worth getting rid of, and the other things have just gone in the bin. But it'd be good to know a little bit about, if there was possible, how he used this. Was this just in a box somewhere, or was this out on the mantelpiece as a display thing, or is it something he used daily?
It has to be old stuff. I mean, he's been making movies, since he was in film school way back when. So he's got all the gear to kind of show for it, like all these old school cameras, all these old school camcorders. It probably was just sitting in a box somewhere in his house.
Yeah. Anyway, cool stuff for a fan. I would imagine that some of the people bidding on it are kind of like, I assume across America, there are a few museums that specialize in filmmaking or something connected that might want to keep them.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's a lot of like collectors that are probably already in LA. Probably a lot of people in the industry who are collectors who want some of this stuff.
I look around my workshop and I wonder, like, if something was to happen to me, or if I made a decision to just bunch tools up and sell them, whether, what would happen? If I put an eBay lot out of all my luthier tools, for example, I presume someone will buy them. But I would hope they would get like properly used and loved. But then I've got weird things, like I've got a DMX controller that I never really use anymore. I use it for a project and thought, oh, that'd be cool. I'll make my whole workshop connect to it. I haven't done. And maybe I should just get it. And it's like what it'll be like. It'll be like that chaos later I had. I think, I should get rid of this. But I'll only get like 10 quid for it or something on eBay. And maybe if I got rid of loads of things, all those 10 quids would add up to enough to buy me a new pedal or something. But then at the same time, I'll lament not having this DMX mixer that I never used. But it looks really cool because it looks almost like my just behind the camera here. It almost looks like I've got not an aircraft, but I've got loads of buttons and sliders and things, and I feel like I'm in some sort of weird world.
I'm like the total opposite, man. I just sold 2 of my mixers. I realized I don't need 2 mixers. I don't need 2 of anything. And I rarely was using the mixer for anything at all. And I did realize that right back here, I have my Fractal FM9, and it has 3 separate stereo inputs, right? So technically you could run like, I don't know, whatever. So I've been using that as a mixer. So I can plug my guitar in, and I can plug in all my Teenage Engineering stuff, and it's basically like a mixer.
Yeah.
And I never really looked in the back to see those stereo inputs. And then I can route everything in the app to route however I want to the outputs. So, yeah, I don't need mixers.
Interesting.
I'll show you the rubbish that I've got here. And my desk is a mess at the moment and sort stuff out. I've got a strange little mixer that connects to my it connects to currently 2 amps in here and a set of speakers. And plugged into that are my Amazon Alexa, a little Bluetooth thing for connecting other stuff to it, and then my cool pitch black tuner. My my Teenage Engineering fits into it. I've got down here a cassette player, and my iPod just fell down, but my iPod was there that was connected to it as well. Never play any of those things.
But you're right, Daniel. It does look cool. It does look like you're like on a spaceship or something, or like an airplane. I like it.
It carries on up there with weird things. I've got a set of chargers and stuff up there. I don't really know what's going on, but yeah, there's some things plugged in. I don't know where the leads go.
Yeah,
It's been like a day to sort it all out. But I keep thinking. The other day, I realised I've got this Bluetooth controller, but I can't remember what I used to connect to it. I used to connect something to it to play. I think it was my old Amazon Alexa. I used to connect via Bluetooth to that, to then go into my mixing desk. But that doesn't make much sense because now my new Amazon Alexa just goes in via an output jack. Yeah, I must have had some theory behind it, or at some point. It's like looking at my pedal board. I've got this weird chain link on my bass pedal board where signals split left and right. But I can't remember why I set things up in the way they were because it's been so long since I played it. And it's got pedals on it. Like some of the TC electronic pedals are brilliant, but they're so bloody complicated. There's so many knobs and controls. Again, I can't remember how to use them.
Hey, since we're doing show and tell, I went to a bookstore yesterday. Yesterday was Father's Day in America. It's Father's Day. I went to a bookstore. It's a really cool eclectic bookstore in Austin, and I got this really cool book. I know if you can see it. It's death metal logos, 1980 to 20. Yeah, check this out. This is amazing. It's just from 1980 to like 2000 something. All these logos and flyers. It's just the most amazing book I've ever seen in my life. It's so cool.
Oh, I love things like that.
Yeah, right.
I should make it more free.
It brought back so many memories. Kind of going through here, like I mean, everything from like the Florida death metal bands that were huge, like Death. I don't know if you guys remember Death.
No.
But you got all of those like European death metal bands too. Oh, look, Morbid Angels in here. I mean, gosh, they got everything. It's just like someone did a great job of just collecting all this stuff and putting it into this book format, and it's just brilliant. I love it.
All I got was Legos.
Yeah.
That's cool. Oh yeah, tell me what have you got a new set? A particular set?
Well, Obi-Wan's Starfighter with the little cloney dude. I forgot what those guys are called. I can't believe I forgot the name of those guys. Yeah. Anyway, crap like that. Yeah. But I mean, that's the only thing I would have wanted. It's funny the whole discussion last night. Me and my wife got on this morbid topic of the importance of having a will and deciding and I was like, I've never really thought about it before because I don't really have much, but I guess realistically the importance of that is more legal stuff, but it did get me to thinking, if God forbid something did happen, I've got a number of guitars that were just never quite sale quality that are sitting around that I don't know what I would do with. I think it'd be fun to have one shipped to a number of people in the community, that the only people that would actually know me and give a shit, and they could get this piece of shit guitar and put it into some decent order, and it'd still live on with somebody who would remotely care.
I love this idea, but don't die.
Yeah, no, I'm not planning on it. Not anytime soon. But yeah, we're supposed to be talking about serious stuff, and my brain's going to, I should ship my shit to Corey in Australia, and yeah. Yeah, that'd cost a fortune too.
That'd be weird. I mean, no offense to anyone here, but there'd be this weird chain of, as people from the Guitar Builders Collective die off, their collection gets sent to the next person in the order of the guitar, until there's one person left with everyone's entire collection of instruments and tools.
That sounds like a documentary.
Who could boast their wonderful collection and nobody else on the planet would know what it meant or care. It was like a movie.
I often think the same thing sometimes, but I don't think I have any stuff that's really valuable. But I do have like hard drives full of like riffs. Like I record every single riff that I've ever written, and they're just in a hard drive. Like, here's a cool riff, and they never became anything. They were just riffs. But I'm just like this prolific riff writer, and I have this. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and full of hard drives. Like I have hard drives full of them, and I often wonder like what will happen to those riffs when I die.
You need to
Maybe I
make
should give those away.
Sell them for a nickel.
Nickel riffs.
Nickel riffs. There you go. No, you need a website.
Would you rather, Mark, leave them on those hard drives and wonder what happens when you die, or just put them out there open source now for somebody to somehow use one? And then
that's interesting.
Yeah.
There needs to be a website.
Yeah.
Because they're totally useless to me, because like I listen to them sometimes because everything's dated, and I'll go to some old date and I'll listen to it, and I can never like replay it. I don't know how to play it. Like I can listen to it over and over, and I don't know what I was doing. Like who knows what's going on? I don't know what key I was in, what guitar and what tuning it was in. Like it's all like, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I would think that would be an inspiration tool, something to drive, ideas, and Seems
Yeah.
like
Mm.
nickelriffs.com.
Yeah.
Subscribe for $10 a month.
I feel like we're at a point where you could probably say to AI, I need inspiration. Can you? No, it wouldn't work, would it? Can you give me a blues riff with this feel to it? But what I remember someone telling me recently about music and AI is it doesn't work in the way the sort of, forgive my lack of technical knowledge here, but the large language models that AI use to do all the generative stuff that it does now uses language, and the way it interprets music doesn't work as well, so it can't write music. But I don't know how true
Hmm.
that is, because
Well,
sorry,
I'll go finish your thought, please.
because I did hear that a jazz musician trained some sort of AI or an AI using his style of playing. And what it couldn't do is recreate his style of playing. What it could do is suggest things to him that he could then go and explore. So
Hmm.
presumably that's to do with his use of scales or patterns or something. It could say, you've done this, you've done that. Have you tried doing this or putting these things together? So he found it useful as an inspirational tool in that way.
I don't understand how it works either, but I did come across, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, someone training their model on Morrissey's voice, and then they would have Cure songs being played, but with Morrissey's voice, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life. It was spot on. It was like Morrissey's phrasing, his voice. I don't know how you guys feel about Morrissey. I love Morrissey. I don't know if he's like canceled around the world. I love
He's
the
definitely
Smiths.
cancelled where I'm from.
Okay, I figured that. Yeah, so like it did spot on job of like phrasing, like inflections, like the timbre, but it was like a Cure song. Like it was basically Robert Smith, but it was like Morrissey. It was just fascinating that you could train a model like that.
Yeah. I would think with jazz, all you need is a random number generator.
Yeah, but maybe, maybe, maybe that's all it was.
You
Maybe
know,
this. No, I have respect for jazz.
I've never understood it. However, I will say the guitarists I've known that are into jazz are absolutely incredible. It's like, I guess, when you get to a certain level in guitar theory, that's just where you go. And my feeble little brain can't comprehend it. I don't know.
I have a bass player friend who's very into jazz and plays in some jazz bands and kind of fills in for other jazz bass bands who need a bass player around Brighton. Um, and I went to see his band once, and they had a guitarist in it who was one of those people who, unlike many lead guitarists, he was quite shy. So when he was playing, he'd turn his amp down a bit, so you could see he was soloing stuff, but you couldn't quite hear him. And the band would sort of turn him up, and then he turned down on his. So he was always a little bit too quiet to know what was going on. It was quite funny.
That's flipping the script a little bit.
I
Interesting.
remember when I really only played bass guitar in bands that played live, apart from when I was at school. Where for a short period, I was in a jazz band, and the other people in it were all were all pretty good at jazz music, and I was quite new to understanding how to solo and things. I was just sort of experimenting around, and I remember we played a gig, or it was in fact one of the teachers from our school hired us to play a birthday gig or something like that. And then the music teacher came up to me afterwards and just said, you don't have to play every single note," and 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 sort of tried to explain to me the idea of phrasing and timing. And I didn't really get it at the time, and it's all those things which obviously make a load of sense. And now the internet is just full of people explaining very clearly how to do things that I had no access to at the time. I had a couple of like charts for chords and scales, and that was what I was using to try and work my way around it. And the other musicians who were pretty good try and tell me what to do. Um, yeah, I wish I'd listened to that music teacher.
I suppose it's hard to kind of like learn jazz on your own. Isn't it more like a partnership? I mean, it feels like jazz is very collaborative. You're in a room with other musicians, and there's a lot of feedback back and forth. Is it hard to study jazz just like by yourself, like solo?
I mean, nowadays I think it might be e- easy to do anything when you're playing along with stuff. But exactly as you're saying, you can practice as much as you want with a backing track, but it's not the same as practicing with a real band who respond back to you. Unless you're using a Spark. Now I remember what you said there. Unless you're using a Spark and it responds back to you. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the people I played with were people that studied music. I'd never studied music, and included some people who. One of them, his dad was a jazz. What did he play? I think he played the sax. His brother's now a well-known jazz drummer. Um, Lives what I think is a total jazz lifestyle, playing small clubs around Paris and then flying to Berlin and doing a bit and then back to London. Crazy. But yeah, I think they all learnt from each other and they were all playing together, and that was probably, like you're saying, the best way to do it then. On that, I feel like I should go away and listen to a bit of David
Yeah,
Lynch Lost Highway jazz sort of.
let's all do it.
Yeah. Look, I don't know what's happening next week. I'm not sure who's around, but we've got a few people that said they're back. Like Owen, who's in the chat at the moment, isn't around for a couple of weeks, but he's going to join us in a few weeks' time when he's back and free. And Ray from Tasmaniac Guitars, he also is free in a couple of weeks to come on the live stream. And I'm hoping by that point I'll have printed out one of his 3D necks to try to use as a discussion point. We'll see. At the moment, I know I seem to bring it up all the time now. I just made, before this call, I had half an hour free, and I made a routing jig for something I'm doing and 3D printed it. Amazing, or it's 3D printed now. Just crazy how easy it is to do that. And I just feel like it's opened up a world of new things that I can do quickly and easily.
That's super cool.
Awesome.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone in the chat. Don't forget, if you're watching live, it'll be a great help for you to leave a comment, maybe thumbs up, share it with someone, subscribe, and all of that. It does. I think it does make a difference anyway. Fantastic. Until next time. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Later.